So yeah, everybody, welcome. Thank you very much for coming. I coordinate outreach for Europlanet, and I am really excited about this session today. We've been running a prize and an outreach funding scheme through Europlanet, funded by our European Commission projects, initially from 2009 to 2012, and then a 2-year break where we didn't award prize and funding, but then again since 2015. And this is an opportunity for us to catch up with some familiar faces, to hear from people about the projects that they have funded, how that's actually worked out, whether they actually did what they said they were going to do, or whether they wanted to do something completely different, which I think is the case in a lot of cases. And it's an opportunity for us really to kind of get some honest feedback about what it's like to run outreach projects, the challenges that are involved, how scope changes as you're going along, the achievements, the impact, and future plans. We're also hearing, first of all, from prize winners. We've been awarding a prize since 2010. Our first inaugural prize winner, who's just left the room, was John Livingston, who spent 10 years developing this astonishing Planetary experiment, which is now used around the world in museums and science centres and university departments to demonstrate auroral activity. In 2011 we had the Austrian Space Forum, so a real exemplar of how groups of volunteers can really engage communities at an extraordinary level within Austria and increasingly around the world, spreading to Oman now. In 2012 we had Yael Naze, who won the individual prize for her outreach activities, particularly focusing on gender and equality. So that actually is all a bit later on. But we have them here, they are participating this morning. Sorry, it's been a very long day. It's only the beginning of the week. This first session, we are going to be hearing about some of the projects that we funded, starting back in 2010 with the Virtual Space Microscope. These range from all kinds of things, from online tools to physical things to tools for people with visual impairments. So we have really a big range of activities today, and hopefully we will have time for discussion and to follow up. The aim of this session, aside from generally sharing things within this room, we are filming it. Depending on what the quality is like, we may be able to put that online, we hope so. But at least then we will have a record of everything that has been said. Our aim is that we're going to, we've approached the editors of the Communicating Astronomy for the Public journal. They're interested in doing a special edition about Europlanet and related projects. So our aim is that we can capture all of this, best practice, lessons learned, fantastic projects, and put it into a special edition journal so that we can all share that with a much wider audience. So thank you to all of you who've put proposals, done fantastic work over the years, won prizes. Thank you to Rodrigues, who is coordinating the prize and funding scheme and the jury, and particular thanks to Amelia, who has put this session together on behalf of Europlanet. I know it's been quite a big job, so thank you very much for doing that, and I'll now hand over to Amelia.
Oh, thank you. Yes, well, I'm going to spend 30 seconds only. Thanks everybody for all your responses and all your presentations. So just some logistics. We have very short time. Unfortunately, we were not able to extend this because there's just so many sessions. So we'll have about 80 minutes per person to present your projects. Again, remember that there is tomorrow the poster session where you will have more possibilities to interact with people. So if you have a poster already, please put it up and then be ready to talk with people about your project. If not, still be there. I'm sure there will be plenty of people interested to know more about what we have been talking today. So this is a complicated session. We have people here, we have people on Skype, and we have some presentations of people who cannot be here or on Skype. So we're going to try to manage all this, and that's why we need to be very specific with that. So this is just for the very first part of, one of the two parts. So we have about 8 minutes per person for this one, and then we'll have another 20 minutes for the prize winners, and this will be more of a discussion. So we'll start immediately with Mateusz. Thank you very much. So yeah, you can hit the camera, or should we do that? Okay. I'll put this in the background.
Okay. I think I'm too loud and I'm too close to the mic, but I will try to stay anyway. So first of all, thank you everyone for giving me this opportunity to start the session off. I'll try to stick to my allocated time, no doubt I'll be told off if I go longer. But I would like to give you one message, if you can take it with you, which is that even though I might have only 5 minutes here, you know, you all have smartphones and computers and whatnot, so you can actually experience what I'm going to talk to you about by logging in online anytime, day or night, wherever you are in the world. And I think that's the beauty of that project that we developed. And the project that actually we received funding for, and I can't believe that it has been 8 years already, I called it Space iPhone. Virtual microscope for extraterrestrial samples. I had just started my new job at the Open University at that time, and I came across a fantastic tool called virtual microscope that actually Open University had been using for previous 15 years to teach their students. And those of you who don't know about the Open University, it's a distance learning education, so we teach all the students from a distance, so they are not based on campus. So we already knew how to use the digital media for delivering lectures. And so when I actually came across this from a researcher point of view, I thought, wow, what a wonderful opportunity. You know, we work on extraterrestrial samples, the rocks from Moon, Martian meteorites, other meteorites. The public never get to touch them, let alone see them. So I approached colleagues who were involved in the virtual microscope teaching side of things and said, wouldn't it be nice to actually develop a virtual microscope for meteorites? And they were very excited. And suddenly I came across these opportunities with Europlanet, put together a proposal. You know, it cost really less than 10,000 euros. No, I'm joking. You know, no project cost that small amount. But the thing is that what I want to convey to you is this Europlanet funding really turned out to be the catalyst for this mega project that it has become. And hopefully I will capture some of the development that came out of this initial seed corn funding. And I'm delighted to hear that there is a plan to bring out a special edition where we can actually capture some of our experience through this project. So as you can see on the first image, what you have in the right, in the middle, is what you are, hopefully all of you are familiar with. You have come across this either at your school or at higher education institution in terms of a simple microscope. The idea is to take that microscope and actually exploit its capability and engage the broader audience, be it student researchers or just general audience, with the fun that it is to deal with extraterrestrial samples. And some of you probably already know this very famous meteorite called Allende that arrived on Earth in 1969, right when actually Apollo 11 was getting ready to go to the moon, like the moon rocks. So I mentioned it turned out that this year is the 25th anniversary of the Open University's virtual microscopes. As I said, it already was there. I did not develop it, but I actually brought new idea to the team, and they were very receptive of that. And here is one of my colleagues who actually was the pioneer of virtual microscope as a tool. On the left you see a typical microscope, but this is our current setup, and of course we have got the state-of-the-art microscope. Not only that, it actually is automated and motorized with the stage that you can move the stage in X, Y direction, you can have the rotation, it's all fully automated. So you put a thin section, if you're happy with everything, all the setup, all you do is press the button, go and have your coffee, you come back, hundreds of images have been taken for you to take it to the next stage. And what you then do is you go onto your computer and you stitch together using the software a whole section mosaic at very, very high resolution. And if you go on the website, you can experience it yourself. Some of the resolution that most people can never achieve even with their microscope they have in their lab. You really need powerful research quality microscopes. So what we are doing is actually producing a very high quality product and putting it, making it available to all the users. Now, what happened then was that after the Europlanet project was so successful, it became so attractive that the Open University brought their teaching side on all the terrestrial samples, and the meteorite side of things, we started talking to museums, we started talking to NASA, and all together, we thought that we need a common platform. And therefore, this new website emerged called virtualmicroscope.org, which you can access now. And what we gave a theme is you discover the collection either in place, in time, or in focus. And it's a dynamic website. If you go there, you probably are going to be interested in something called collections, and collections is where you will find different projects that we have done over the years. And the two that I want to highlight today are the European Meteorite collection and the Apollo collection that we have done. But there is much, much more there and much work that is going on. As an example, when you go in the collection tab, you go, for example, in this case I went to the Europlanet collection. You want to investigate a particular meteorite. In this case, I want to investigate a meteorite called Acapulco that fell in a place called Acapulco that I'm sure you are familiar with in South America. So what you then do is that if you're familiar with different types of microscopic images, you have in this case here something called reflected light image. You can just have the same thing under plain polarized light and between the cross polars. And the beauty is that you can flick from one to the other, and if you are simply interested in learning about minerals, you can actually learn about the minerals based on their properties. If you're interested about doing some scientific work, actually you can investigate the minerals that are of interest to you. Not only that, you then can actually pinpoint at places and look at the rotations as if you are actually rotating the microscope stage. And this is something that you can't do with a physical microscope. You can't have two views together in a traditional microscope. You can have only one or the other. But with virtual microscope, you can have both, and you can put your mouse and you can actually rotate it as if you are rotating things along. Now, I already mentioned to you about the Apollo sample virtual microscope that we developed. And we did this in partnership with NASA. They were really fascinated by it, and I happened to be talking to the right people, and then it turned out that we now have over 500 thin sections from all the 6 Apollo collections digitized and available freely to everybody. Okay? And this project is coming to a close, but it has just been fantastic, and we are now going from strength to strength, and again, you can explore all the Apollo samples that are there. In this case, I have just picked up an Apollo 11 sample called 10029. Those who are on lunar samples would know that. Same thing, reflected light, plain polarized light, under cross polars. Beautiful, beautiful images, and you can do the same thing. And here we are, because we work with experts, because we work with people who really know about these things. In this case, this is Dr. Gibson. He was in the back room when the Apollo astronauts were collecting these logs from the moon. So he actually helped us in selecting these thin sections to get 500 thin sections. But they're not just random 500 thin sections. They are actually selected for their merit. Now, this is something Anita would be interested in, and we want to capture this in a publication in terms of some statistics. I'll just take one more minute again, because this is really important. We get money, we use it, and as I said, 10,000 euros is really nothing. The amount of money that has costed is probably now about €1 million in this project. But it's still, without Europlanet, I contest this would not have happened. Okay? And now you can see through statistics how many users we have actually engaged. So far, we have about 25,000 in the last 5 years who have actually engaged with us, and the most users are coming from countries. Of course, we are building this in the UK, so you would expect that from the UK, but US, but also India. Yeah, and you can see the increasing trend. You can see the trend maybe plateauing a bit, but it all depends how good a job I do when I go somewhere, or my colleagues do when we go and actually advertise this. And I've tried to do it as much as I can around the world. Maybe it has done some work, but we can't read too much, but this is something that we could capture in a publication like that. Now, it's not just a virtual microscope. My colleagues and I have been just so enthralled by this experience that we have tried to write these things, and you can actually download this iBook called Moon Rocks that has come out of this virtual microscope work, and then we are currently writing a book called Moon Minerals. Believe it or not, in the last 50 years there has not been an updated book about minerals on the moon. So I'm looking forward to it. And then we do a lot of outreach you can recognize this familiar face. Who came to my lab, and trust me, I didn't know who he was, because I did not grow up in the UK watching his program, and my PhD students were jumping outside my office saying, oh, it's ReMY Henrik. What's the matter? Oh, who you were talking to? I don't know. Well, you just brought somebody who was interested in my art. And later on I found out I was talking to some ReMY Henrik. So a humbling experience. And I will leave it there because I'm really finished. But I want to take virtual microscope to the next stage and call it virtual microscope. And I want to make this more usable for researchers. So I will finish here, and I just want to acknowledge people and hopefully have given you a bit of space. I know 6 minutes or 8 minutes that I took is not long enough. So thank you again.
So sorry for the presentation. Okay, now we have the next one is again from so it's again from 2010 and it is the Rosetta one. It's an educational kit for the Rosetta's Comet touchdown, and this was sent to us by Maarten. Roos could not be here, so it's there, it's open already. You just need to put it up. So if you can explain through this video. Thank you. It's here, this video.
Good afternoon, I'm Maarten Roos, and I'm presenting this talk about the Rosetta's Comet Touchdown educational project. Thanks to ReMY and the Europlanet Outreach team for putting together this session and for inviting me to present my project. Rosetta's Comet Touchdown was a project to develop an educational kit in relation to the Rosetta mission. It was done in 2010-2011, at which time Rosetta was still on its way to the Comet, of course. The project was supported by ESA, by DLR, by Europlanet, and by LEGO, in particular LEGO Mindstorms. It was produced by Light Curve Films, that would be me, and I am presenting this together with my collaborators on this project, who are Detlef Koshny and Markus Bauer from ESA, and high school teachers Ágota from Hungary and Filomena Rodrigues from Portugal. First of all, the target audience for this educational kit is about age 15 and up, no upper limit. As I will show, the kit has a strong interdisciplinary angle to it, which makes it potentially useful for a wide range of interests, from science to technology, language, music, history, and others. The kit consists of elements listed here. There's a series of videos with one main educational video. There is a set of what I call interdisciplinary activity sheets and some other supporting materials such as articles with background information about Rosetta, transcript of the main film, and other things. The initial idea to do something with LEGO came from me, but then it was really Detlef Koshny who had the idea to use Philae as the goal of this project. And here I list the other people who helped develop the project and who were involved in the film as well. Aerospace engineer Ulrike from ESA and planetary scientist Dan Andrews from the Open University. In the second half of this presentation, I will play a bit of the main film, but first let's talk about the other things. So the interdisciplinary activity sheets is really a set of suggestions about how to use the theme of comets to explore different angles of different subjects. And I will show you what it is about. The kit was tested on 3 occasions. The first was during the EPSC 2010, when the kit was also first presented. 12 students of aerospace engineering and 3 students of design had one morning to work with the kit. They built a model, a LEGO model, based on the model that had been used for the film and had been built by LEGO specialists. One of those specialists, Martijn Bogaerts, was there to guide them. And then the students of design made a background for the model. Here's some photos of that morning, and there is also a video about it that captures the event. Later, in 2011, 2 high schools tested the kit. LEGO was so kind to provide with 3 LEGO boxes. The first school was a class of 15-year-olds from Sokolov in Hungary, under the leadership of physics teacher Ágota. They made several teams working on different aspects. During several months, they built an amazing lander, designed a t-shirt, looked into tales of comets in the history and in Hungarian literature. They made an animation program for orbits, and they made a video, several videos, and took a lot of photos. And they then later presented their work at the EPSC 2011 as a poster. And look at this amazing lander that they built. Another smaller team that had less time to work with was at the high school in Setúbal in Portugal, under the guidance of physics teacher Filomena Rodrigues. And you see here photos of what they did. They had an arts team, as you can see. They built the background and a Lego building team. Now, both schools wrote reports that I can make available to anyone who's interested. And I think the lessons learned from this kit are the following. So the interdisciplinary approach is most appreciated, because more students can engage in the topic and approach it from different angles. The kit was found interesting, but we have to realize that it's just one of many available resources to teachers. And teachers and teaching programs are under huge load from the official curriculum. So I think that distribution is really hard. It's how to get to your audience, how to make it known, and then time for teachers to actually use these resources. So after the two schools, there has been no more testing, and I don't know of anyone who has used the kit after that. The interdisciplinary activity sheets are available at this link, and all the videos can be found there as well. I will now play a 5-minute video with excerpts from the main educational video, the 2010 EPSC event, and the film made by the Hungarian students. So thank you for your time, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or any comments. Thank you very much.
What is a comet? What's the point of studying them? The simplest way to think of a comet is analogous to an asteroid. Asteroids and comets.
We are trying to rebuild the base, making a stiff structure, so similar to the one already made by Rosetta, just a little bit less complex than this one.
Allora, stiamo per rappresentare la cometa sulla quale appunto andrà l'astronave e appunto rappresenteremo lo spazio insieme ai pianeti e a tutto il resto.
Building the lens, the feet of each lander, and we don't have all the pieces, but now we are reinvented all. Okay.
This is perfect, because what you're doing is you use Giotto tempera, and Giotto was the name of the first European comet measured. Now the second one is called Rosetta, so the next time you have to take Rosetta tempera.
Yes, we learn a lot of new things about the lander works. I didn't know much about that.
Sì, più che altro perché abbiamo fatto questa materia del disegno davvero il primo anno, quindi un po' abbiamo ripassato anche la materia che abbiamo già fatto in base ai colori, quindi il mescolare del colore, le tonalità, le sfumature. Più che altro questa è l'esperienza la conoscenza di questa moneta che non ne sapevamo esistente, quindi è una cosa che abbiamo imparato.
Also the professor said, it's like a game, it's absolutely
Yes, I will share a screen just to say hi from the town of Copernicus, from Poland, Poland. I'm just saying in a moment. Okay, so we are a construction company. We used to start up when it was from Roosetta, and what was the technical solution is our version idea, Europlanet okay. So we are called APM Space, we're based in Poland, and established basically on the student teams that participated in European Outreach. So these were engineers. Sorry, there was a feedback. There were engineering teams that were building robots for the American robotics contest and getting to the youth desert and competing among other international teams in Mars analysis. There were successes in Comet, so we gathered together and we established a company because Poland was joining ESA in 2012. So we were preparing for this event by consolidating our teams. And actually we have applied to Europlanet with an idea of a parallel idea, a rover, not a virtual rover. And originally we wanted to maintain it as a project on smartphones. So we called it a virtual Mars rover, VMR. Tried to implement it on the early smartphones at the time, and tried to make people play it in a turn-based gameplay while they are traveling on train or waiting in a queue or something. But this idea actually has grown further. We have also a hardware component with our company. Actually, when the Europlanet granted us the grant, we have joined this grant with our seed investor, and we created the company that was merging both virtual and physical technologies and teams. But what we have taken out from the virtual Mars rover, it was an innovative engine of the gameplay that actually scores scientific discovery. So it is a game of building, but you do not build any structures on the surface of Mars. You build your hypothesis by adding new elements of the discoveries. So this motor has been tested up to now, a version on smartphones, and later on the company that was already running focused also on hardware activities. And we have created our own analog platform, and we have used it for testing of future flight equipment. Among the most interesting project, there was testing of Wisdom ground-penetrating radar that actually goes to Mars with Mars rover. So in 2012, we have tested it in Austria, in glaciers, in the caves, ice caves. We have also tested another instrument. It is called LIFE. This is a type of fluorometer for finding bacteria in harsh environments. This was tested on Sahara. We operated our rover from Poland while it was done on Sahara, so we had a nice teleoperation test via satellite internet. After those first projects, we have started to apply for ESA because Poland joined ESA in 2012, as I mentioned. And among those ESA grants that we won, there was also a Mars navigation grant. It was a software. So another complementary element of our bigger picture, software for navigation, tested both in analog environments and also in virtual environments. But at the time we were fully running industrial company performing grants for ESA. And we still wanted to get back to our original idea and have some education component. So we do develop hardware, we do develop services, but we also have a strong education services branch, and this branch has matched hardware and the original idea of BMR. That's how we created ReMY. ReMY is the name of both a small robot that is 3D printed, but also of the whole system. It's an abbreviation from remote Marsia. And basically what is it? It's a small yacht that is planted in our offices in Toronto. It's 3 by 4 meters currently. There is a rover on it, and you can log on to this rover through the internet from any location. We attach to this scenario the brochures, so you can have a semester of activities, 20 up to 20-hour activities by preparing a mission on the simulated Mars environment, but not with a virtual rover, with a real rover. This is completely different perception. We have tried it with ECRO Polska, so the ESA's education office. About 400 kids actually performed this mission. And after this, we have extended this and got a grant from the Polish National R&D Center for innovative gaming programs. This is a European grant run by this National R&D Center, dedicated especially for innovative ideas in games, not in education, not in space. Why games? Because it looks like a game, but it's not a virtual game. It's a merger of physical and virtual system. This is quite novel approach. It has some limitations because you cannot have many players at the same time playing. That is why it's for groups. But on the other hand, you operate within an environment for very large distances. So basically, what it is a visualization of your area. If you've got streaming from the rover camera, you can watch your rover also from the outside. You come out with a flight plan. You can chat with the moderators and other participants, and you perform similar tasks to BMR. So you search for objects of interest and you build your hypothesis and you score points. We have done it in a competition version with 25 schools each semester, but this extension will have 10 by 10 meters, possibly several game rooms 10 by 10 meters. It's going to be available next year, so we are very open for cooperation. We have presented this in the US, in Israel, in UK, in Austria, in Poland. Also, it's very on time because POLSA, the Polish Space Agency, launches educational activities, and those rovers are also shipped as programming aids for programming, teaching of programming. So we do multiply them and we manufacture them. And that's all from me. Thank you very much. We have presented in Berlin two months ago actually, so there was a session from Berlin. And we are hoping for the new session, so I would like to invite you to join and to try out the system. Thank you very much.
So we continue with 2011 scheme, and I believe it's Amelia Ortiz now.
be able to touch what we see when we look at the moon. So we started out with Clementine's map of the moon, and we had to adapt the image because if there is too much detail, it leads to confusion when you touch it. And only the most prominent features in terms of visibility were selected. We enhanced the larger craters, myria, mountain ranges, and even the crater rays. You know, these rays, they don't have any height at all, but we wanted to give it some relief in order to, for the blind people to realize, oh, okay, yes, these craters are upholden, they have these bright spikes coming out, which is something we enjoy when we look at the moon. So we did some image processing with Kim, deleting, increasing contrast, and blurring the image. And this was the final image. It's not very nice, it's kind of ugly actually, but it's what we needed for the model. We also included some braided letters on the map to label the most important features. And then we created a key for these features, like A stands for Copernicus crater, and B for Kepler crater. And our goal with this was to allow the blind person to be able to explore the moon, the model, autonomously, without the need of being helped by somebody pointing him, oh, here is this, or that's the other. So from this ugly picture, we translated it into an ASCII file in coordinates, and that was input that we gave to a 3D rendering software. In this case, it was meshed up. There are a number of 3D rendering softwares out there that you can use. And this was the final model that we get, the 3D model. You can see the braid letters here. You can see that the north cap, polar cap, was marked with a cross. There were no equator, no meridians, nothing like that. And this was the printed prototype. And we made 20 copies of this, and we sent it around the world to test it. So we sent the moon to many places in America, in Europe, in Asia, and in Africa. And the users were testing the moon, and their feedback helped us to reach our final design. You may notice here, for example, in the north polar we don't have a cross anymore. There was a T. In this way, this vertical line of the T is is pointing towards the near side of the moon. So that was one way to tell the blind person this is the near side, and that is the far side. We included also a meridian that separates the near side from the far side. Okay, and we deleted the braided letters because then we realized after the tests that the braided letters had to be of a very, very specific size for them to recognize them. So it was really difficult for them to recognize the 3D printed letters. So in the end, we decided just to remove them. And instead, we put some diamond printed braided letters that you can paste to the model in order to help them localizing the different features. Now, a colleague of mine, that was a very, very tedious process. A colleague of mine decided that we could do things easier, and he created an open source software that he calls Amelia that maps, it takes you directly from the map into the tactile globe, very easily. You don't have to go through the 3D rendering software, which is complicated to use. And in just less than a minute, you can go from a map to the tactile globe. And that allowed us to make quickly
My name is Hargitai, and this project was about designing planetary maps for children. In this project, we tried to combine different fields of science and arts: cartography, planetary cartography, planetary geology, or geography, rather, graphic arts, and outreach, targeting children, and that was one of the drawbacks of the project, that it was not defined precisely enough what we mean by children. It's a quite large age group, and they require very different materials to be really tailored for their needs. In the project funded by Europlanet, we created 6 maps. And the project was continued, and in 2016 we added the Pluto Chiron map to the series. The basic concept was that each planetary body was mapped or drawn by a different graphic artist with very different graphic design style. So each map could be considered sort of experimental design, and the main goal was to see which one, if there is one, which are better or which are less good for a planetary map. And it's not just a drawing, it's a accurately drawn cartographic product. So the concept behind the maps was that we tried to pre-interpret the surface features for the kids. We didn't give them automated maps like topographic maps or photomosaics, which are really hard to understand what's going on the surface. So we tried first to interpret the surface geology and geography, topography, and create units that are better understood for the unaided eye in this respect. And we selected a limited number of features to be drawn on the maps, limited number of features to be named on the maps. And one of the most heavily criticized part of these maps are the alien creatures that I've shown, because on the one hand we try to impersonate the geography, the geology, with creatures the children can attach emotionally to. But in the meantime, these creatures might mislead them to believe that aliens exist on solar system planetary bodies, which is of course not the case, unfortunately. But so it's a question. If it helps the kids to better understand the surface geology and climate, meteorological conditions, or not. And I still believe that it helps, because these creatures show some interaction with the surface features. These creatures do something, are placed into the unit, into the local geographic universe, so it gives them a lot of information about the surface geology. So these are some details of the 7 maps. All had some focus and of course some theme, so that we limited the number of geologic units in this respect, and we added some creatures for Europa, for the Moon. Io is a very interesting body. Mars is perhaps the most detailed map, sort of ready to browse around. Titan was just mapped at that time, so we had some blurred images of rivers and dunes, it's the alien world, and Venus is a very hot lava planet, which is very nicely represented in this map, the hotness of the surface. And that's the latest addition, the Pluto Charon, which shows, we have chosen the theme of the Halloween, which is the kids' understanding of the underworld, the mythology, plus it's very far away and dark and icy, so it's an icy. So the issues or the lessons learned is that these maps are not really children's maps, these are targeting a not existing age group, and we should have chosen either the younger age group from 6 to 8 or the older tween generation, which are more interested in facts, and the younger ones are more interested in cute figures and pictorial stories. The other is that we haven't included real photographs, which would help to understand what the graphic art represents in real life. And third, it is fictional creatures problem, which might have been solved if we add only future astronauts, children astronauts, or something like that. A school children on Mars is not really impossible in the foreseeable future. A side project grew out of this mapping in that we created educational materials, class activities for each of the map. It's up to 2 hours activities. The children can engage with the maps and the 3D rotatable globe versions of these maps. And this classroom activity is designed for students who study geography or science in the United States, but in my country, Hungary, it's geography or physics, in which it's possible that the teachers build in at least one class hour into the curriculum. Future plans. One of my plans is to make a school atlas of Mars for future school kids on Mars, from the point of view of future school kids on Mars, in which we would create a similar structure to geographic atlases that are used in elementary school today. But everything will be about Mars. Another is that these are a little bit too detailed maps for most use, so we would create some simplified versions which has much more variety of uses. And the next addition in the series is the Comet nuclei stream of Gaussian comet, which is an irregular body, so it needs a very it's a new concept how to depict for kids, how to depict the irregular body for them. And the format is also problematic because it's a PDF file that you can download. The high resolution PDF you can print out in a printing shop. So we would need to make it more interactive move it to the YouTube universe and make a short movie of that, or create some labyrinth books which are very popular among this age group, or picture books or storybook, or some multi-page atlas version, not just a big sheet of map, but a atlas they can turn the pages. And the website offers these maps in 11 languages, 11 different domain names. All the maps are translated with the website with additional materials. So you can go to international section of the website, studentsmaster.wordpress.com. You can find the educational materials there, and you are invited actually to join the team and help us with creating more side projects and more themes in this children's mathematics project. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. So we do not see a representative here of 2013. Actually, we did, but she had by accident just a week ago, so she couldn't actually rest. So we jump now to 2016 in Bulgaria. Yes, maybe we can, you can say that because I'm not sure.
Can you mute your microphone so we don't hear you typing because we hear your keyboard stroke?
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah.
So good afternoon, everybody. I'm from ENAF, the National Institute for Astrophysics, Italy. Today I'm here on behalf of an Italian non-profit association called Speak Science to present the project you see on the table that is called Planets in a Room. So let's start from our inspiration. In 2016 we decided that we wanted to build a tool that worked like a planet simulator, but at the same time we wanted it to work as a projector for a small planetarium. We wanted it to be easy to bring around with you in the classroom when you go to a classroom to speak with children. We wanted it to be easy to use with your own content, and of course at the same time, this is the hardest part, we wanted it to be really cheap. So this is when Europlanet came to our help, and we won the Europlanet Outreach Scheme in 2016, and this led us to the object that you see on the table that is called Planets in a Room, that is at the same time a planet simulator, as you can see, but at the same time removing the sphere on top of Planets in a Room, it becomes a small planetarium projector. Of course, a small one, you cannot use it in big planetariums, but for a small planetarium it can work for you. So, if you want to build Planets in a Room, you should start on this website, planetsinoroom.net, where you can find the kit. It is a do-it-yourself kit. It is a very simple kit. You need to assemble the final Planets in a Room version. Of course, to distribute it, we needed a commercial partner. Since we are a non-profit association, we cannot sell things. So we found an Italian small company that prints in 3D and can sell this object all around the world. And of course, it is a do-it-yourself, so you need to do something to have it. And to build the kit from what you receive at home, we need your help, of course, to build it, but also to calibrate it. Some of you have seen Adriana calibrating the Planets in a Room kit just before the session. So when you have learned how to do it, it will take you half an hour, maybe less than that. But of course you need to learn how to calibrate, how to build it the first time, and then calibrate it. Then you will need to have some other small additional objects. You will need to have a computer and a projector, not dedicated. You can use your own computer, you can use the projectors you use in your classroom to work with Planets in a Room. But you will need the two commercial lenses. You might have them because they are two normal Canon lenses, one a fisheye, one a 15, I mean two really normal lenses. And the globe, if you're thinking that the globe looks like a lamplight, well, you're right, it is a lamplight. So you can buy a bigger one if you want, because we are sending it, we are shipping it all around the world. So I think we will send it to the small version of the lamplight. But you can, of course, buy a bigger one in order to have a bigger planet in a room for your classroom. The software, the images, the content will be online. It is already online in the website that all this starts from. And everything, we managed to keep the costs very low. So the kit will be shipped at the price you see. It's 150 euros for the kit that we managed to build, and for the software license as a pre-sale 6-month period of time. And we are asking all the people who will join the project to be better users, so to help us check if the software is working, if it can be improved, if we can add other content, or if something needs to be changed to use planets in a room, not only in Italy but all around Europe, all around the world, of course. So our main target, of course, is not selling. We are no profit. So what we really want to do is create an open community of people using this tool and improving it, of course. So we started, of course, as we usually do. We started from home, and we, first of all, found some first users to test the kit itself and to start using it at home. So we managed to find some first users, and with them we started some initial projects. So we will bring it at the European Researchers' Night in late September, and we will bring the planets in a room at the Maker Fair that takes place in Rome in October. But of course, this is just a starting point. I think we are already having students appreciate the tool, because I wanted to share this with you. The first students that used it in an Italian high school, this is the statement that surprised me. We started as students, we became ambassadors of the planets, because we want students to use this tool, not only to see the planets, but to learn how to use it, teach the planets what it is. Okay, so I'll just finish saying that we want the planets in a room distributed not only in schools, but also to researchers, because it can be a great tool to see your own data on a spherical surface. So why not distribute it to researchers or libraries or small museums that cannot afford big tools to show the planets. And so this is what we want you to participate. So Adriana, I'll take my last minute just to show some of the planets we can see. Just make a very quick tour of the solar system, starting from Earth, the Sun, Mercury, Venus with atmosphere, and you can remove the atmosphere, of course. Earth, day and night. This is the Moon. Wait a second, this is too beautiful to go so far. This is the Moon. Okay? And then you can walk on the Moon, of course. This is a photo of the Apollo astronauts on the Moon. Then you can leave the Moon and go to Mars. And of course you can also display data on the planetary map. So you can show the landing places on Mars, and then you can go to, of course you can take a selfie on Mars and show it on the sphere. Asteroids. Jupiter. How big is Earth? This is Earth. This is how many Earth fit in Jupiter. Yeah. And then moons of Jupiter, which look beautiful on the globe. Saturn. It's not easy to represent the rings with a globe. And then go forward. And then of course course, you can also show videos, not only images. So, this is it.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you also for the opportunity to present this project alongside the other winners. So this one is from 2017, last year. The project is called Open Planetary Map, and thanks to the funding scheme last year, we've been able to lift up the initial idea that we had off the ground and form and consolidate a team of experts, and so we recognize one of the previous presenters here. So this also has been done within the framework of Open Planetary, which is a non-profit organization which is promoting and facilitating the open practice of planetary science and data analysis. And also, we've been able to partner with Carto, which is a cutting-edge geospatial data visualization and analysis company. And what else? Yeah, I guess this is all I want to say about this. But forming a team, the lesson learned is that forming a team when we're remote and we want to have the best people in the team, and this is a voluntary work, it's very difficult. Let's start from planetary data we learned from our missions that are planetary data images that are amazing and that are super useful for outreach, for drawing attention from the public into planetary science and exploration. And this is a very recent example of the recent discovery of this underground frozen lake on Mars. And those were the images that were posted on ESA websites, and then it's been spreading all over the world. It was in Wired, TechCrunch, and The Guardian, and many other websites and newspapers. And so these images, I think they are great. We love maps, and maps are also fantastic. Convey information to people, but they are static and they lack interactivity, they lack of context. And so we think that interactive maps are much better for engaging people, telling stories, and this is where I'm going to. So obviously it's related to maps. Where on Mars was a pilot project which started before Open Planetary Map. And what you see here are a few snapshots of an interactive visualization of the selection of the landing sites for the future ExoMars rover mission. And you can see here a global view of Mars, where you see the selected landing sites, here, certain and Mars studies. And this tells you a story. So this is a very known concept on Earth, which is called story maps, and are very attractive, and you can move from one slide to another, zoom in, zoom out, and for each relevant slide you have an associated text that describes what you see, and you can further explore. And so we think this is great for engaging the public community. So our goal with Open Planetary Map is to make it easy to create this type of interactive products on the web, and to share location-based knowledge and maps of Mars or any other planets of our solar system. And our long-term vision for this project is to build an open planetary mapping and social platform for planetary scientists, space enthusiasts, educators, and storytellers. So how are we going to do that? So I'm going to show you the basic concept. It starts first off with what we call the base maps, which is a base map is serves as a foundational layer for any map visual hierarchy. And so part of this project is to build a set of beautifully crafted vector-based base maps of planets. On top of that, you need an open repository of data sets that are related to planetary geology, robotic and human exploration, and different discoveries, the climate, the planet. And on top of it, you have touching points to the public, which is the web app. And I'm going to talk about this here. This is how we envision that it would look like, both on the desktop computer and on a mobile, where people would be able to search any places on a particular planet. They would be able to comment and share with other people on social media, for example, where you would have a static image rendered directly put into social networks, from where people would click and come back to this website, and they could further explore what's around this particular place and put everything in context and discuss I mentioned already. And most importantly, we also want people to contribute to this open data set and add their own places, which we think can be useful for the public as well as for researchers. And so without going too much in the details of what's in the box here, what I want to point out is that this fits into an ecosystem, and I'm going to describe the 4 different parts of this ecosystem. The first one is the Open Planetary Map team and the contributors, which who are the planetary researchers and the cartographer. Then you have the developers, who might be also planetary researchers, data journalists, anybody who has some knowledge of web mapping basically, so it's more technical. The third are the public users. So as I mentioned before, it could be space enthusiasts, students, educators who want to use this, and also we think it might be useful for planetary researchers to share any location-based knowledge on any planet. And fourth, but not least, are third-party applications, which we think that people will be able to build using this platform and enable them to develop new 2D interactive maps, 3D VR environment game, online mock. Actually, after having seen this project, I think that it would be great that anything that is from Open Planetary Map could end up on this beautiful blog. So a quick overview of what we've achieved so far. We've been working on a base map for Mars, which contains a combination of topographic nomenclature, albedo data, and more recently we've been doing the same for the Moon with the same type of data. And just to quickly show you how it looks, it's very draft first version, but it shows you basically the idea that you can zoom in, and as you zoom in, the content dynamically change, and it's all also vector-based, so the experience that you have is kind of similar to the experience that you have with Google Maps nowadays, which is totally different than what it was like a few years before, so it's pretty smooth and really nice. You can see, and that's it. So if you want to know more, you can go to openplanetarymap.org, and we are on Twitter, GitHub. Again, this is collaborative, and if you want to get in touch with me, you can write to me at openplanetary.org. That's all.
So we're left with 10 minutes and 2 more presentations. So we still go to the 2017 funding, and we go from the planets in a room to the
visual and tangible representation of the wide range of environments and characteristics in every planet in our solar system. These models will be exhibited in schools, universities, private institutions and organizations, as it is a portable exhibition. We give the audience the possibility to touch the surfaces. That's why they're carefully designed for children and visually impaired audience, because we want to give them the opportunity to feel and have a good impression of the wide variety of the surface, landscape characteristics, the size, the scale, and all the environmental properties of the planets. That's why models include special effects such as temperature and light variations, windy environments. We want to present really well the surface characteristics and address the major difference between the gaseous and the terrestrial planets. We have some sample models here as an example. We have Neptune, Mars, Jupiter, and Venus. And here is the model of Mars in its wooden frame with lights around. We have put our hands on it so you can see the scale. And there are also little fans so that we can simulate the winds or sandstorms that Mars may have. In other models, we are using dry ice for the air and little resistors for the temperature simulations. So as for our target group, we want our target group to be everyone, from families with children and young students to visually impaired people, as I mentioned, people with special needs, basically everyone who is interested in planetary science. That's why we have this is carefully designed for those people. We have focused on the surface textures, we have focused on showing as clear as possible the landscape characteristics, the size and the scale, and the environmental properties, as well as we could. So the exhibition aims on being an alternative way for everyone to know better about the solar system, adding to the already available educational materials such as books and internet. In addition, we have made a website where you can find out information about our team, information that we have written about every planet in our solar system. You can track the construction progress and the program of the exhibition. We are taking part and are going to take part in different social events. Of course, these events include a presentation in our university in Athens, presentations in national educational institutes, and of course, social events that take place every year in Greece, in Athens, and have to do with science, like the Researchers' Night, which is actually next week, like the World Space Week, Athens Science Festival, and of course, school visits. Our team is open for everyone. Everyone can come and volunteer, everyone can come and help, and you can contact us and find us in our social media pages, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the website. You can email us too. This is us. Thank you for your time.
That was really great. Thank you so much. And so we are done with 2018, and Harold.
Yep, it's me. Well, afternoon everybody. My name is Aaron. I'm talking about this project that's just recently been funded, I'm very happy to say, by the Europlanet Consortium. It has a rather manifold, the Comet Radio Telescope Network. If I thought about it better, I might come to a snappier acronym, but it actually gives me a good way to sort of talk about the project, because there's a bit of a background story as to why I decided to try and submit this proposal and to make it work. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is something called Comet. What's Comet? Comet is where we're from. on the west coast of Ireland. It's one of the 4 provinces. So it contains the counties of Galway, Roscommon, Mayo, Sligo and Leitrim. And the provincial capital is, I'm very fortunate, to live in the town of Galway, right on the Atlantic coast. And this very nicely university and all the rest of it. The reason I'm talking about this in context is because it's a beautiful part of the world. When the weather's good, it's a beautiful part of the world. This was taken from the space station last summer, where even we got blue weather. And this is southwest Connemara, Westport, and so on and so forth. It's an absolutely beautiful part of the world. But it's also quite a barren part of the world. I mean, I don't mean that in a bad way, I just mean that not a lot of people live there. It's suffered quite a lot from depopulation. So it's quite under-resourced in terms of lots of things, infrastructure, basic infrastructure, I suppose. On the other hand, it has a very strong, I suppose you could say, community feeling. The people who live there have a very, very good, strong sense of themselves and where they are. And that's something that I'm conscious of because I've worked with people from that part of the world. This is a picture of Greg Allen and Steve Burke. They're both former graduate students of mine. They're both from County Sligo, which is the northwest coast. It's not Ireland, I hasten to add. This is a place called Owens Valley in California, and that's them standing next to a cross dipole antenna that forms the basis for a larger radio telescope system that they built, assembled, and are operating over in about 500 kilometers north of Caltech, where they're both placed at the moment. So this is a very, very powerful and very, very new telescope. And one of the nice things about it is that you can actually image the entire sky 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. On the right-hand side, this is the night sky from the fisheye. Then on the left-hand side, this is the radio sky at about 60 megahertz. Okay, this was very, very data that came out. So that's fantastic, and they're doing wonderful things over there in the United States and more power to them. But I suppose the most important thing is that it involves a radio telescope, and where did it all start for them? It started with this, which is more like it. This looks more like home to me. We have kind of the jungle undergrowth of sort of the rainy sort of environment that we get in Galway. We have the grey skies, very important points. This is a radio telescope I'm talking about. Okay. And there it is. It's a very, very straightforward dipole, right? It's no different to a kind of television type set that certainly older members of the audience have been quite used to in this venue. So it's a Radio Jobe here. What is Radio Jobe? Well, Radio Jobe is a project that's been funded by NASA for about 20 years now. And the purpose of the exercise is to get very basic looking things like these into schools and to some extent universities, so they can actually do radio astronomy. And the specific type of radio astronomy that they can do is study the brightest things in the radio sky, which are basically the planets and the sun. So the setup is very, very straightforward. First of all, you build your glorified clothesline, as I'm trying to describe it to journalists in the past, and that's essentially what it is. Very, very straightforward setup. You said you have two dipole arrays. You just literally wire them up. The wire that comes in on a coax. It goes into a receiver system here, which you get from Radio Jobe. You can assemble it yourself, or you can get it pre-built. And also then you need a PC to basically look at things. So what can you see? Well, as I say, we're very fortunate that the two brightest things in the radio sky around 20-30 megahertz are in the solar system. The sun, you can observe the after effects of solar flares associated with the huge reconnection events. And we can also set the impact of the sun's solar wind on the largest planet in the solar system, Jupiter, which is also wonderful to do there. And so, once you actually end up with the vanilla sort of understanding that you get with Radio Jobe, these kind of like the old type strip charts that you might see from older times. So this is an example of a solar flare which has been picked up. It's measured in brightness temperature, which is the standard way in which radio telescopes operate. You can see what's called Frey, fast line exponential decay of a type 3 burst. And this is the storm, a magnetic storm associated with the interaction of Io, the Io Taurus, with Jupiter's magnetosphere. And the students can actually run these things at night, come in the morning, certainly when it comes to Jupiter, and see what they call. And in real time, technically, this is the important thing. I emphasized the previous picture that you saw grey skies. It's possible to observe the sun in Ireland, which is really quite something. So in terms of the actual cost, it's very, very cost effective. I mean, it's not exactly loose change, but you know, the sort of prices that you're sort of being requested to put out to actually get something together are very, very straightforward. They're tractable. So given the sort of budgets that were associated with the Europlanet funding mechanism, it looked like it was possible to do something like this. So, but in order to make it work, you need a network. More to the point, I'm interested in giving these away to schools, as I was just about to say. So I needed to find teachers, okay? I'm a third level teacher. There's orders of magnitude difference between what I do and what secondary school teachers do. But my idea was to basically do an IKEA on it, so you get a flat pack type system where you bundle everything together and you would find the schools and you would gift it to the schools and you would help the teachers integrate it into their STEM curriculum. Just provide advice and everything else. After all, they're the experts to actually do it. 2 minutes, I think I can do it. So, what do you need? A relatively isolated level site, and buckets of that in the west of Ireland. Access to school buildings, the house receiving the PC and all the rest of it, and also enthusiasm. So I sent out a rather wordy expression of interest just to scare people off. I mean, I didn't want people to go, that sounds great, what are you going to do for me? I wanted teachers to go, yeah, that looks like a really interesting challenge. What I was looking for were teachers who were about 10, 15 years out of university, and who were basically 10 years into the job and going, oh my God, I have 30 years of this to do, and how do I make this kind of interesting and so on. And I was very, very fortunate that the teachers who came back to me, here are the lists of the actual schools. The map there shows you their locations in the west, and these are all the numbers of students in each of the individual schools involved. And what's interesting about this is that you can apply a multiplier effect to this. What I mean by a multiplier effect is I've already talked about the sort of the tight fabric of the rural communities in Ireland. And every single kid there has a family who will know about it. So there's going to be a multiplier effect that will go out and beyond that, which is really very encouraging. Back at the university, we're just going to run some hosting services and also provide advice to the teachers on how to get things done, and also have sort of an annual symposium for the kids to come in on buses and have a bit of fun and sort of talk about the work that they've done, which would be pretty exciting. So in terms of the states in the future, my goal, because I've only just got the money now, is to try and make sure that schools can perform for the next Jupiter operation, which will start in February, and Jupiter will be in opposition next June. It's going to be quite low, but it's still very easy to do. I'm horse trading wildly to get the price down, because 6 schools applied before the deadline, 3 missed my deadline. And I told the 3 additional schools I'd do my best to fit them in, so I'm working hard at that. The schools are back in business back home, and they've been getting on to me and getting things done. They're looking at sites and so on and so forth. So it's all beginning to kick off and things looking quite interesting. One surprising thing from my perspective, I wasn't expecting it, was the lot of media interest in this. My chancellor met one of our PR people in the university. I told her about this particular project. She thought it was great. She issued a press release, talked to a few people, and there's been quite a slow burning burst of media interest in it, certainly in our part of the country. And also the national media are quite interested in covering when the first telescope goes live, which is fantastic for me because it's now the perfect carrot for the teachers and the schools to actually, get everything together to their level. So I'm just going to conclude by talking about where does this fit into the big picture. Yes, it's a very important STEM tool for outreach, but perhaps one of the more interesting things is it actually ties in very nicely with a recent development in Irish astronomy per se. Between 1850 and about 1890, it's hard to believe that Ireland was the site of the largest optical telescope in the world, the Leviathan at Bauer Castle. There it is over there. This is the actual site you see in Google Maps. And using it in Roos, created some of the most amazing drawings. The work that goes to Bauer Castle, have a look at the moon, of planets, and of course the galaxy and the nebula, which is one of its key interests. So wind forward about 200 odd years, the same area hosts the LOFAR node, Ireland's LOFAR node, which is part of the large LOFAR radio telescope network array across Europe. And the thing about this is the following. During the week, that thing is integrated into the whole European array and does amazing radio astronomy. The weekends, we get to play with it, okay? The astronomers in Ireland. But one of the things we're observing, of course, is the sun. One of my colleagues in Big Gallery at TCD is a big solar astrophysicist. And the fun thing is we're going to integrate their observations with the kids are going to be observing. And so the kids can actually buy in, if you like, and actually see how their results are locked in step to work that's been done in LOFAR. So it's actually very, very exciting. So I'd just like to conclude by saying Irish Middle Weakest, which is thanks a million, to all of the teachers. They're the key people as far as I'm concerned. And of course, to Rodrigues and the ReMY, and of course, the Europlanet Consortium for making this thing come a reality. As I say here, watch the space. Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's getting very challenging. So we had like, I don't know what, like 40 minutes. So I would like to, I'm not sure how to do it best, so I would like to invite Roos
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Thank you very much for letting me participate in. Can you hear me well?
Very well.
We'll hear you fine.
I am impressed that a few years ago I created an auroral simulator. And through this auroral simulator I learned a lot. And some of my conclusions are common with what I heard today. One of those conclusions is that in many of what has been shown today, there is no computer. And to me, in my experiment, there is no computer working. And very surprisingly, no computer looks very modern to many people. Many people are used to make experiments through computers. I think that it's very good. Of course, we ought to use computers, but it is also very good not to use them always, because we, as researchers, we know that we are creating a lot of maps, and maps should not be confused with the territories. Maps are computer models, mainly. And what I have seen today is something very important to me that helps people to understand that science is a lot of maps, but they have access to the territory. The second thing I have heard also, and maybe some people would like to discuss that, is that in all those lectures that we have today, I never had questions about I have to define the budget, the goals, and the means, and blah blah first. Huh? You see, a few weeks ago, I attended a meeting with professionals of communication, and they always ask those questions. What is your target? What is your song? But obviously, this is not what the speakers do. They just do, they go ahead, and they create something out of their knowledge. And I think that this is a very important point. We need professionals in communication, of course, but we are not professionals in communication, and so we just go ahead. The last question, and I would like to discuss that if some people would like it. The last question I have is about the social medias. I refused, and I still refuse to go on social medias with my Planetary experiment. I have seen that what you do, but many of you don't care about social media, and Twitter and Facebook and on. And so maybe that we could have a reflection on is there a danger to go to social medias for us, for the public, or not? And I finish here.
Okay. Well, thank you, and please stay online because probably we'll need to catch up on those questions and talk about it, okay? Thank you very much. Journal, would you like to follow up on this?
I do have a few slides. Do my best. I have like 4 hours, but I want to give the floor. So basically, what I would like to present, just as a thought, is when we. Oh, sorry, wrong presentation. It's the one afterwards. Okay. That's why I asked you how much time I have for next year's session for the right presentation. I got it. It looks similar. Okay. So this is about a program we came up with since a couple of years called the Junior Researchers Program, because we have the feeling that we do a tremendous amount of
reaching sometimes hundreds of thousands, millions of people, but we have a problem with the conversion rate of people who are at the late teenage ages, actually turning them into planetary scientists. And we said, what can we do about not just enthusiasming them, but actually getting them very close to taking a career decision. So this is a rather late age decision to be taken. So for those of us who don't know us, we're the Austrian Space Forum, build spacesuit simulators. We go to Mars-like places and do Mars missions there. We simulate Mars missions. So for instance, we were just coming from a mission in Oman in February this year, involving 25 nations, 19 peer-reviewed experiments, 200 people participating, and with quite a large outreach activity as well. So what we did learn in previous missions was let the people build experiments. And we saw that this might reach only a fraction of the people you would otherwise attract when you go with traditional social media, public outreach events. But this small numbers of people we reach have a very high probability to participate in missions as a junior researcher and maybe have the right career choice. So that's the conversion rate parameter we were looking into for a performance indicator. So the idea would be, and this is the only message, the only take-home message I would like to share with you as a not provocative thought, but it's a thought where you can maybe get something on track as well. And that is involve young people in a way like researchers do the actual work. It's all about authenticity. It is at an age where they are not happy enough anymore with children's approach how to do science. So, and this can all be boiled down to an age where even if they're like 16, 17 years old only, they can still formulate a scientific research question. They can develop the methodology. They have to implement hardware and really do the nuts and bolts work. They have to create something new which is unique to them and unique to the world as well. Do the testing, train others like our analog astronauts who work with experiments in the spacesuit. They have to be the mission support center for doing remote science support. They have to do data analysis interpretation. You have to publish. And even a 17-year-old teenager can publish in the respective magazine. It might not be a big peer-reviewed journal, of course, but it might be something equivalent. But it forces them to reflect on in various dimensions the experiment. And what we've seen so far with this experiment is, yes, it really, really works. That's what's the most promising. Even if it fails in terms of the experiment doesn't work, it still works in terms of maybe converting them into planetary geologists or scientists in a way. So just a concrete example, this is going to take like 2 minutes only. We did the mission in Oman in the area which really looks like Mars. So just comparison, some recent pictures from Mars in our mission as well. You put up there a 5.5 million euro base station, basically that's what we did. Looks like Star Wars, I don't know if you know the sunsets, second sunset already. You have a large mission support center back on Earth / Innsbruck in Austria. You have a number of experiments which are being conducted both by professionals and junior researchers. This list is very important, not so much about the content, but the reflection that the junior research experiments are treated just like a professional experiment. So we take them serious. That is scary for the teenagers in the beginning, but after some time they realize we're also, like we say in German, we're also just cooking with water. Which means that this framing of how you define a research question, how much work you put into particular parts of this experiment cascade, is maybe downscaled in terms of the scope from a scientific point of view, but the important thing is this is all about taking them serious. So they come up with 3D printing experiments and then breaks in the field. They relay the data to Houston. They overnight do the 3D drawings, activate remotely the 3D printer, and the field crew the next day has the broken part replaced with some magic. We talk about geographical referencing systems where they actually build a signal box where it can measure the signal travel time between the different assets and triangulate the position of something where you don't have a GPS system. We're looking into, and this is very special, we explicitly ask our Omani partners to involve students
which were females. In man, we were the subtitle structures are slightly different than in Austria, and so this was quite a blast. And seeing 15-year-old teenagers being empowered in such a way is far beyond the science. It has a societal impact as well. I mean, those ladies are still running around with lots of pride talking about what they did half a year ago. We had a lot of outreach, of course, with like 4 million people reached, impressions made, cited, and so on. The one lesson learned, and then I'll shut up here, is that for those junior researchers, it is very important to be taken serious. That's, I think, the key ingredient to this. With guidance, yes, but autonomy as well. You can do this at little budgets. Every student team had only 500 euros budget, basically. So we had technical college thesis done at the end. We had them actually present a professional presentation. We coached them. And they were literally taken by the hand by the senior PIs to present in professional conferences. Some of them still continue. That's a conversion indicator as well. And we're also trying now to convince them to do a joint junior researchers paper in astrobiology, in a real peer-reviewed journal with lots of, needs a lot of coaching, but they're really, really eager to do this because that means playing with a big voice. And that's very, very encouraging. And we haven't said that. We want to continue. In 2 years, we have the next mission. So if you're interested in those projects, please come and see me afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, great. So can we go back to Skype for Jan?
Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
I've lost image, so I don't know where you are. So, okay, I maybe fix it. I can hear you. Okay. I just don't see you.
It doesn't matter. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I don't. I don't see you.
Doesn't matter. We see you and we hear you and everything's fine.
Okay. Okay. So, well, if I understood, you had this coffee very soon, so because you are very tired. So I'm just going to quickly that I think the best is to discuss. So, in fact, what I wanted to say is to continue on the previous part. What I like to do personally is, of course, going to those kids who are very, involved in astronomy and so on, are very eager to now present to adults that don't know a lot about science, that are a little bit afraid of science. So I've tried to cover a bit of things to really trying to use art first, like to know Asia, poetry, music, fine arts. There are many areas. So my default message would be very simple: is just try to think out of the box. And if you got a crazy idea, it may not be that easy at all. So just try.
Do you want to show us also your PowerPoint, or are you done with that? She has also a poster.
PowerPoint was just for, just in case everything failed. So everything can look at the poster tomorrow, so it's on the poster.
Okay, great.
Let's just have, discussion.
Yes, stay online for this.
Should I use this? I should use this probably. Okay, so this public engagement prize, thank you Europlanet, it was an amazing award. As I understood it, it's to recognize actually some decades of where I've been engaging the public in a variety of ways. So I have to identify at least one good example that I can show you in which I did this, and I chose, of course, last year the EPSC. So it's a funny thing that GAPS is similar to my name, and I want to just give this the message about what happens in gaps. What is a gap? Well, I've been involved with the asteroid mining community, and there is a strong gap that they face, which is how to get from here today, where we are with the technology that we have and the vision that we have, to, let's say, 7 years from now, where we might have instruments on an asteroid actually extracting resources like water and using that as propellant to get the spacecraft to the next asteroid. And 7 years is actually a realistic time frame according to some of the asteroid miners. So this gap is quite key. Their strategy to get from here to there has been tried and tested a few ways. If you depend on capital, well, let's say venture capitalists, you have a huge dependence on the whims of some bankers, and it's a little bit harder to get your mission into the next phase, and so some of the asteroid mining companies have faced that. However, if you build a product that buyers will buy today, that is useful today, that has a purpose and usefulness to asteroid miners in a few years, for example, a water thruster, then this is another path you can get to the next stage. So this is what the business model gap is that startup companies face when they're trying to implement big visions. Well, I had a big vision, and my big vision is that I recognize that these tiny little countries are really tiny, and they have very specific skill sets, but together they could do big things. Individually it's much harder. So we needed to bring together these individual countries, and we're not only distributed in space, we're distributed in language. You see how different these 4 languages are. So these are the 4 languages of the 4 countries that were the local organizing committee of the EPSC last year. And it's funny, I used to think that the Estonian and Finnish language were similar until I actually translated text. They're not that similar. And so when you hear how ahead the Estonians are of the other Baltic countries because they're listening to Finnish broadcasts, the reason they were ahead is because they were teaching themselves the Finnish language to decipher what they could see on television with these advertisements for vacuum cleaners and things like that. So that's my challenge. Now, what I recognize is that at least the 3 Baltic countries are pagan cultures, and they worship the sun. And this has a nice congruence with the EPSC because these are cultures whose largest celebrations of the year are the solstices. And so planets for them are very, very important. And they like to sing about them, and each of them have an oral history that's about singing about the sun and the planets. In fact, the sun is the most referenced word in the ancient Dynas, which is a very old text of oral literature of the Latvians. So my message is don't be afraid of the gap. There are multi-dimensional gaps in space and time. And if you find a way to bridge those gaps, you'll find that they have the greatest impact. Oops, so back up. So the gaps that I was trying to bridge for the EPSC were these. I'm going to go away from the microphone a little. I was trying to bridge gaps across all age groups, across multiple sectors of business, which are, in Latvia at least, carrying a lot of the research and development because the government didn't do as well, and they recognize this, and they don't want the young people to keep leaving the country, so they are looking now more towards space as a way to inspire the young people to stay. Then there's bridges in geographic and political space between these four cultures. And so I had three ways that I was building my lock for the EPSC. Planetary cultural, planetary education, and planetary professional. And so this was the cultural theme, and this person here is a stateswoman, Freiberger, who was the two-time president and beloved still in Latvia today. And her specialty is the sun. And so these are books that she published about the sun. Melodies of the Sun, and we had a social event where people were folk dancing to some Medinus, and we also had exhibits where these were celebrated, these folk stories. And then the education part, well, Bernard is here. Bernard, in fact, is right there. Okay, this is a public event. And the theme of this public event was, what are the astronauts going to do in entrepreneurial space? So this is quite a serious topic for the entrepreneurial space people who are not dependent on agencies and government. And these are the young people that were training in the summer before the EPSC in internships. So this is that age group that our previous speaker was trying to address. They spent 3 months on projects and then presented them to the professional community who judged their summer projects. Sorry, you didn't hear me very well, did you? So, that's all right? Okay. And then these are the exhibits downstairs that was built as a collaboration with science centers. There's 5 science centers in Latvia. We got a grant from the government for building these science centers. For building this exhibit underneath the Radisson Blue. And these exhibits now are portable, and they're going around from science center to science center, and in the last year they've reached 10,000 kids. So the EPSC has continued to influence the education of science, planetary science in Latvia. All right, and then finally, professional. So these are the skill sets I identified. We put these skill sets in a book, and I have some copies, the Baltic Space Facilities booklet. I'm going to put them in the discussion right in front here. And so, you know what this is? These are the exhibits. This is the Finnish Meteorological Institute, where we had several of our colleagues exhibiting, and in the poster session. So I think what I want to finish is that one of the presentations by Leslie Young of the Pluto New Horizons team, she went to the bookstore and got a book of Latvian symbols and put the solstices inside her Pluto presentation. And that showed me that I managed to bridge the gap for the EPSC. So don't be afraid of the gap. Thank you very much.